could touch a power line carrying 500,000 volts, enough electricity to power a small town and survive? Not just survive, but actually work on it. Repair music it with your bare hands while it's still alive. Sounds insane, right? Yet it happens every single day. The music secret? We learned it by watching birds. Those tiny sparrows sitting peacefully on high voltage cables aren't lucky. They're not immune to electricity. They've just accidentally mastered a principle of physics so powerful that when humans figured out how to replicate it, we turned the deadliest job on Earth into something survivable. But here's the twist. This same principle explains why thousands of birds still die every year on those exact same wires. The difference between life and death isn't the power flowing through the cable. It's position. It's understanding one invisible rule that nature obeys without question. So stick around because I'm going to show you exactly how nature's smallest creatures taught us to conquer one of nature's biggest killers and why breaking one simple rule turns survival into instant death. To understand why birds don't get fried, we first need to destroy a myth you've probably believed your whole life. We imagine electricity like some kind of hungry predator, lurking in wires waiting music to attack anything that gets close. Lightning bolts, sparks, danger? But that's not how electricity actually works. Here's the truth. Electricity is lazy. It doesn't want to attack you. It doesn't want to do anything dramatic. It just wants to flow from point A to point B as easily as possible. And to flow, it needs something very specific. What physicists call a closed circuit. Think of electricity not as some mystical force, but as water flowing through a pipe. If you close the valve, the water is still there building pressure, but it's not moving anywhere. Power lines, they're those pipes, massive copper or aluminum highways, engineered to be the smoothest, fastest, most perfect path for electrons to travel from the power plant to your house. These materials offer almost zero resistance to electrical current. Electricity absolutely loves flowing through them. So when a bird lands right in the middle of that electrical highway, our instinct screams, it should get electrocuted. But physics doesn't care about our instincts. Physics cares about efficiency. Here's where it gets interesting. When that bird plants both feet on the same wire, it creates a fork in the road for the electricity. The current reaches the bird's feet and suddenly has two options. Option 1, keep flowing through the thick metal wire like it's been doing. Option 2, make a detour. Climb up one leg, pass through the bird's body, and come back down the other leg. Now, here's the kicker. Compared to metal, a living body is a terrible conductor. The bird's tissues act like a speed bump, a roadblock for the energy. And electricity, remember, is lazy. It always takes the path of least resistance. So, it faces a choice. Cruise down the smooth metal highway or struggle through the biological obstacle course of the bird's body. It's like choosing between walking on a clean sidewalk versus trudging through a swamp. The current, being efficient, says nah to the hard path and just keeps flowing through the metal. The bird completely ignored, but resistance is only half the story. There's an even more important factor at play. Voltage difference, or what we commonly call electric potential. For electricity to hurt you, it needs to move through you. And for it to move, it needs to go from a point of high energy to a point of low energy. Think of it like a waterfall. Water needs height to fall. If the water's sitting in a flat lake, it doesn't move anywhere. When a bird perches on a single wire, something fascinating happens. Its entire body becomes the same electrical potential as that wire. If the wire is at 10,000 volts, the bird's right foot is at 10,000 volts. Its left foot also 10,000 volts. Its beak, same thing, 10,000 music volts. There's no drop, no waterfall for the electrons to tumble down. The bird essentially becomes an extension of the wire, vibrating at the same energy as the power music grid, but with no current actually flowing through its body. This is called floating potential. The bird isn't blocking the electricity, it's surfing on it. As long as it doesn't touch anything else, it's in perfect equilibrium, protected by the same physical laws that govern the entire universe. Pretty cool, right? So why can't music we do this? This logical explanation leads to an obvious question. If birds can do it, why can't we just hang from power lines? The difference isn't our biology, it's our connection to the ground. See, we're almost always touching the earth, and the ground has an electrical potential of 0 volts. It's the universal drain for electricity. If you touch a high voltage wire while your feet are on the ground or on a ladder touching the ground, you become the perfect bridge between massive energy and zero. The electricity doesn't ignore you anymore. It rushes through you violently to discharge into the earth, causing fatal damage instantly. Birds survive purely because the air insulates them from the ground. If a bird had legs long enough to touch the earth while perched on the wire, it would suffer the exact same fate as us. But here's where physics gets even more interesting. Music, I said earlier that the bird is safe because both feet are at the same voltage. But technically, electricity loses a tiny bit of strength as it travels along meters of cable. There's a minuscule voltage difference between one point on the wire and another point 2 and away. For small birds with tiny feet close together, music, that difference is basically nothing. Doesn't affect them at all. But what about larger animals or us? Imagine a high voltage line falls to the ground and you're standing nearby. The ground becomes electrified in a music gradient like ripples in a pond. If you spread your legs while walking, one foot might be in a zone of high voltage and the other in a zone of lower voltage. That difference would make current climb up one leg and down the other, electrocuting you without even touching the wire. This is called step voltage, and it's terrifying. Birds being compact with their feet close together naturally minimize this risk. Their small anatomy is in a way an evolutionary life insurance policy against these subtle voltage differences. Despite all this protection, the system isn't foolproof. Birds get electrocuted all the time. The real danger appears when they break the golden rule, touching 2 points of different potential simultaneously. This is especially tragic for large birds of prey like eagles or owls. When taking off or landing, their wingspans are so wide that they can accidentally touch 2 different wires at the same time. The current no longer has to choose between the wire and the bird. The bird becomes the only connection between 2 massive energy sources. The shock is instantaneous and fatal. The same thing happens if the bird touches the wire with its feet and accidentally grazes a metal pole or transformer with its wingtip. In that instant, music, they close the circuit to ground. That's why power companies install insulating sleeves and redesign poles. It's an engineering attempt to prevent the biology of large birds from becoming their death sentence. And now we arrive at the promise I made you at the beginning. Remember when I said humans copied the birds? There's a high-risk job called live line maintenance. Sometimes you can't shut off a city's power for repairs, so workers have to fix things while the electricity is still flowing. How do they do it? They use helicopters to approach the wire, keeping themselves completely isolated from the ground, just like birds do. But they take it one step further. They wear special suits made of stainless steel thread and conductive materials known as Faraday suits. When the worker approaches the cable from the helicopter, they use a metal rod to touch the line first. A brilliant arc of electricity jumps out, and in that moment, the helicopter and the human charge to the same voltage as the line, 500,000 volts. Just like the bird, they're now at the same potential. The electricity flows across the surface of their metallic suit, wrapping around their body without touching it, allowing them to work with their bare hands in the heart of the beast. It's one of the most insane jobs on the planet, and it exists because we learned from sparrows. The next time you see a little sparrow perched on a wire, don't just think about its luck. Think about the invisible dance of electrons happening beneath its feet. That bird is teaching us a fundamental lesson. Danger doesn't just depend on the power of the threat. It depends on your position relative to it. Electricity, like so many forces of nature, respects those who know its rules and punishes those who ignore.